Hello and welcome back to part 2 of our session on a new way of being church. For those of you who were with us yesterday, we talked about the first 3 points using the acronym NEW. And yesterday you heard N, meaning we need to change. We heard about E, establish small groups, and we heard about W, to win souls. Now let me explain to you now the next 3 points that we're going to be talking about, and this is using the acronym WAY, W-A-Y. Our first point on W is worship. Now you may think worship is a very common thing. I do that every Sunday when I go to church. In fact, I'm doing it every day now. But I'd like to talk to you about the difference between corporate worship and personalized worship. When we go to church every Sunday and we're in a congregation and there's a worship team up there, the LCD projector is up, the lyrics are there, the worship leader is there deciding the songs, telling us when we need to clap, when we need to raise our hands. The whole flow of worship is one that has already been designed and set up for us. That's corporate worship, and corporate worship is good. I've got nothing against it. But now that we are moving into a new way of becoming church, God is saying we need to get into personalized worship, because we don't have a church building to be present in to actually have that kind of worship. Psalm 103 verse 1 says, "Praise the Lord, my soul. All my inmost being, praise His holy name." That is the NIV version that says my inmost being. The King James Version says, "with all that is within me." I want to challenge you today in a new way of becoming church. It's time now to shift from just corporate worship into personalized worship. It's not about listening to a YouTube video of worship songs. It's not just about singing 1 or 2 songs, but really drawing into the presence of God, being in His presence and just worshiping God for who He is, and allowing God to do something great and wonderful in our lives. That personal one-to-one relationship into the holy presence of God. That is what God is looking for. That is W. The next point, which is A, is action-oriented. You see, a lot of us, all these years in church, many of us have been passive people. What do I mean by passive believers? We are contented with just coming to church, sitting there and being part of the congregation, being an observer. Somebody else is there to preach the word, someone is there to pray, there are musicians up there, the worship leader is there, the greeters are there, everybody's got their own thing, and I'm just comfortable sitting here, receive, do my Christian duty and leave when service is over. Perhaps you've been so comfortable just being that passive believer in the background. But now, with so many things changing in the world, perhaps God is challenging you not to be that passive individual any longer, but to be action-oriented. If you look in the Bible, many times in Jesus' ministry, everywhere He went, they say there were crowds of people that were following Him. My question is, when Jesus was on the cross, where were those thousands of people? When Jesus fed the 5,000, it said Jesus fed 5,000 men, not counting the women and children. That would mean 7,000 to 8,000 over people. Why is it when Jesus was at the cross, they were nowhere to be seen? That's because they were passive. They were just in the background observing. I want to challenge you today in your walk with God. Don't be contented with being passive if that is how you've been all these years. God is challenging you today to rise up and be more active as a Christian. Share the word with someone, evangelize your neighbor, call a friend who is struggling, counsel them over the phone, pray for them over the phone. Yes, we cannot meet face to face, we can't sit in a shop, but there are a lot of things that you can do over the phone, even through Zoom or any chat or any video call that you can do. Be action oriented. And my final point for today is the alphabet Y. And Y is to yank out. What does it mean to yank out? To yank out is something that is already in depth in the ground, you grab hold of it and you pull it out. Ecclesiastes 3:2 talks about a time for many different things. And verse 2 says, there's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to uproot. This is what I want to talk to you about today. This is the new way of being church, where God may be challenging you to uproot and yank out all the old habits that have been consistent in your life for so many years. You've been so comfortable doing things the way you've been doing it. It's been so ingrained in you that it has become your nature. But perhaps that character or that habit is not something that glorifies God. And probably God is challenging you today and telling you that with the new way of being church, there are areas in your life you need to yank out. There are areas in your life that need to be uprooted. Because when you pull out the weeds, then the actual plant now has more place to grow. So I want to challenge you as you ponder all these points that we covered, NEWWAY. As you look at all these 6 areas, what are the areas God is challenging you to work on? And let's all work together in the new way of being church. Stay tuned with us for part 3 tomorrow. God bless you.